It's another day on the homestead. It's another day in the kitchen. Thank you so much for meeting me in my kitchen. In this video, we're going to go through how I take food from my garden that feeds my family all summer, really all year long, and how I preserve it. If you're like me, you have stuff coming in by the bundles, especially in the summer season. I call this the summer press, where the garden is producing and you have to harvest every single day. And if you're like me, your counters are covered and you're like, what am I going to do with all of this food that I'm not going to eat fresh? And so I did a video last week about what I do when I bring food into the house. And so let's just consider this, part 2, or more vegetables and another way of preserving. So today we're going to do some new projects that we have not done before, and then some that we have done before. But I invite you to come into my kitchen with me, and maybe you can get some inspiration about what to do with your crops that you're harvesting from your summer garden. If you are new here, my name is Barbara. I live in Tennessee, and I'm so glad that you landed on my channel. Please say hello in the comments. Let me know what city, state, or country you're coming in from so I can say hello back to you. And if you have been here before, thank you so much for continuing to rock with me every single time. Now, before we get into what we're going to do today, I want to first tell you guys about the fall gardening workshop that I will be doing on July the 26th. It is a Sunday. It is live, yet virtual, and so anybody around the world can attend. It's from 2 to 4 Central, and this is called the Fall Garden Blueprint. Now, first thing I want to say is that this is the time now to start thinking about your fall garden. Not when the temperatures cool down, not when you see the first cabbage plant at your Home Depot. It is right now. And so if you want to have a fall garden, you don't know what to do, you need some help, and you want me to walk with you step by step, then register for the Fall Garden Blueprint. I will put a picture up here, and I will also put the link as the first comment. If you have any questions, just put them down below, but let's jump on in. So y'all, today's first task, we are preserving some tomatoes. And for me, this is the first time I've ever done it this way, but it is a way that I have been wanting to do it. And I'm going to talk about this throughout the video. Think about the ways that you use the product now. So we are going to can diced tomatoes. I've always wanted to do it. I don't know why I've been intimidated about it. It doesn't seem that difficult, but I'm no different than you. Anytime there's something new to be done, I get intimidated, I get overwhelmed, I get fearful, just like you do. I know how to can. I've been canning now for the last 4 or 5 years, but it's a new task. But I thought about, I buy cans of diced tomatoes from the store to go in my chili. I use my tomatoes primarily for spaghetti sauce and things like that. But this year, I want to try some different things with my tomatoes. And today is the first one of those new things. So if you've done canned or diced tomatoes before, then kudos to you. If you've never done it before, then this is how we're going to do it together. And I am going to water bath can them. And you want to make sure that you have an approved canning recipe. I grabbed one from the internet. I will link the link to the recipe down in the description box. But let's go ahead and dive right on in. Today's canning, we're going to use my Presto digital pressure canner. I'm not doing it on the stove. I'm going to do this way because I want to be able to kind of set it and forget it and not have to baby it so much. This is linked in my Amazon shop. I love this thing because it's great for like small batches and when you're not doing like a big canning project. And like I said, you don't have to babysit it. It kind of does it for you. So the first thing we're going to do is plug this in. It has markings on the inside of this pot that's in here. And I filled it up to the very bottom line, which is about 3 inches. We're going to turn this on, and it's digital, and it tells you everything to do. It's asking me, do I want a pressure can? No, I want a water bath can. I'm going to press select. It's asking me for how long. It's going to be 45. Let me just look at my recipe just to make sure. I think we're going to do pints, and I think that's 45 minutes. Yeah, 45 minutes. And then it's telling me to insert jars. So that's what I love. It tells you everything to do. If you are a new canner, I definitely suggest that you learn it on the stove. But if you are, let's say a canner that does not have a big family and it's just you and you want something to where you still want to can and put up food, but you don't want to do batches and batches and 20 and 30 jars, this will hold, I think it's 8 pint-sized jars on the water bath canning method, or when you pressure can, I think it's a little bit less than that. On the pressure can inside, you can do quart-sized jars. So let me get my jars, and we're filling the jars halfway with water. That's just kind of to weigh the canning rack down. And then we will put the lid on and get this water heating up, and then we'll go over, clean our tomatoes, and get them chopped up and ready to go. Okay, so I have my tomatoes here. I have all different kinds of tomatoes. This is about 10 pounds of tomatoes. I don't know how many pint jars it's gonna make, but we'll see how it goes once I chop and core and all of that. I have all different kinds of tomatoes. It's not just one particular kind. You can use whatever kind you want and whatever you have on hand. I didn't want to use a lot of cherry tomatoes because they're just so small and kind of, you know, hard to deal with in terms of cutting and stuff. So I have some beefsteak type tomatoes. This is Cherokee Carbon. I have some Paul Robesons. Look at that. That's just beautiful. We have all different kinds. So because the tomatoes are so juicy, of course, it can get kind of messy, but that's okay. This is what we're starting off with. I love the pretty colors. I think that is so nice. And you can't find that in your local store with all those different colors. It's just going to usually be red tomatoes. But if you think about it, it doesn't matter. It's going to give it a good different flavor profile. And so even when I do like my spaghetti sauce and salsa, I use variations of tomatoes because I think it helps with the flavor. Plus, it's whatever I have on hand. And I'm not going to take the time to try to put all beef steaks, all Cherokee Carbons together, all that kind of stuff. I just mix mine. But if you want yours all one color, then just use red tomatoes. You know, do whatever works, you know, for what you got going on. So we're just going to get all these chopped up. And I'm using my chop wizard. Like, I'm just like doing them in a bit of chunks, so to speak. And then I'm doing them through my chop wizard and just banging. If you don't have one of these, you certainly need to get one. It's in my Amazon shop, but literally, let me get this out the way. You put it in there just like that, and it's diced. And it comes with several different attachments, so you can get whatever size tomato you want. But mine are pretty much the size that you would get in any, you know, like diced tomato can. And 1 pint is going to be the equivalent of a 15-ounce can, which is what you would buy at the store. Then I'm just taking my bench scraper and then just adding them to my bowl. And then this is what we'll use to fill our jars. So we'll see how much we get. And then I just have a bag here for all of the cores and all that good stuff. I'll compost all that. One of the things I'm trying to do this harvest season is preserve more as I go when I have the time. Now, when it comes to tomatoes, tomatoes come in fast and furious. And so one of the things when you don't have time to process your tomatoes and they are about to go bad sitting on your counter, what you can do is, of course, wash and clean the tomatoes and then core them and put them in a freezer bag and then just stick them in your freezer. And that way you can process them into sauces or salsa, whatever you want to do in the fall and winter when you may have more time. I have done that many times, and I do that with the majority of my tomatoes. But when I have time, I want to go ahead and do something with them while I can, which is why I'm doing the diced tomatoes today. But that is a great hack if you didn't know, because when I first started gardening, I didn't know until I saw somebody do it. So you can just put them in a freezer bag and put them in the freezer and deal with them later. Now keep in mind, when you bring them out of the freezer, the skins will easily fall off because they've been frozen. And again, it's not going to be like a fresh tomato that you can put on a sandwich, but you can use it to make sauces. Okay, guys, these are all of our tomatoes. They look amazing. They're already creating their own juice. And then on our canner, it's already saying fill jar. So it went through the warming up period. And so now we're just going to fill our jars. So they are nice and warm. And so we're going to take our jars out, empty the water that was in there. We only put a half a thing of water in there to help the canning rack to stay down so that the jars wouldn't float. Let's start with 2. So I'm going to take Well, first of all, I'm gonna do, you gotta add salt and lemon juice. We are doing a water bath canning method, and so we gotta make sure that the acidity is correct. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that first. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go back and get all my jars because I wanna make sure, because sometimes I forget this step, and you wanna make sure you don't forget this step of the salt and the lemon juice. So we'll go ahead and get all of our jars out. Okay, so we're gonna fill our jars. I have my jars, we've taken them out. I have a funnel, and so we are going to fill our jars. And let me look at my headspace just to double check that. Okay guys, see, this is why it's important to make sure that you know your steps and look at your recipe. I got a phone call. My husband called for me to do something, and so I'm back, and I started filling my jars. But what I want to do, I'm going to fill this jar, and I'm talking through it so that I don't forget, but I need to go back and put in my salt and my lemon juice. But I'm filling the jars, and we're going to get it to a 1/2 inch headspace. Now tomatoes definitely are acidic, but because you don't know the acidity, and I'm just shaking it to get it all the way down, you want to really like pack it in. Because you don't know the acidity, that's why you have to add bottled lemon juice, not fresh lemon juice, but bottled lemon juice, to make sure that the acidity level is right when it comes to canning. So that's why you want to make sure you have an approved canning recipe. And I have been canning for the last 4 or 5 years, and I still follow my recipe to a T. I still look at my recipe over and over and over. I do not go from memory. Now I may say, oh, I think it's happening, and I'll double check myself, but I do not go from memory. I do it according to the recipe. That's how you make sure that you have a safe product. Now, if you are interested in canning and you don't know how, I do have a digital course that you can purchase. I have one for water bath canning and one for pressure canning. It is at livingfoodsfarm.com under digital resources if you want to take advantage of that. And for the month of July, I think both courses are 25% off, and it'll automatically discount when you add it to your cart. Okay, so we got 1 jar full. Well, now, because of the way my brain works, I got to fill up all the jars, and then we're going to go back and add in our salt and lemon juice. Scream at me if I forget, but let's go ahead and fill up the rest of our jars and see. I have 6 jars out. I'm pretty sure I have enough for 6 jars. We'll see if we have any left over. I'm really excited about these diced tomatoes. Although it sounds very simple, I buy diced tomatoes from the store all the time, especially in the wintertime, to put in soups and chilies. And so I feel like it just makes sense, since I grow so many tomatoes, to have diced tomatoes on my shelf. I even buy cases of diced tomatoes from like Sam's or Costco. I usually probably go through, I would say, 2 cases in the winter. So that's probably a total of maybe 10 to 12 cans, because you may use 2 or 3 cans in a thing of chili. So I'm excited to try this, and if it works, then I certainly will be doing more. I'm trying to think and ration through how I want to use my tomatoes this summer. Primarily, I usually use my tomatoes to make a ton of spaghetti sauce, salsa, and tomato soup. Usually spaghetti sauce, I probably do 10 or 12 quart-sized jars. Salsa, I probably have 5 or 6 pints, and then the same for tomato soup. And as I went through my inventory in my pantry, I think I have 4 jars left of spaghetti sauce. So that is pretty good, and I should be able to make it until I can make some more. So that's good, because I try to grow enough of a crop to last a year, or whatever I'm preserving at the time. I try to do enough for a year. So it looks like I'm going to have 6 jars or 5 jars. I end up having 5 jars of these diced tomatoes. They look so pretty with all the different colors. And now that's one thing you're not going to get in the store. They're going to be just red. But these have the different colors, which I think is so pretty and will be so pretty on the shelf. But I realize that my headspace is off. And so I need to take some out of a jar and then fill up the rest of them so that they're at the appropriate headspace. So I end up having 5 jars instead of 6. So I debubble. The tomatoes are making their own juice, and then plus we have the lemon juice in there and the salt. But I debubble, and then I'm going to just make sure that I have the right headspace on all of the jars. I'm going to wipe the rims and put the lids and rings on, and then it's literally ready for the canner. We got that done, and then we're gonna do half a teaspoon per pint of salt. So half a teaspoon of salt if you're doing pint size. I'm using Redmond's real salt, which is the only salt that I use. Okay, so we got that done. We didn't forget that step, so that is good. Now we're just gonna wipe our rims. I just wanna make sure to get all the bubbles out as possible. And I have one jar that's a little bit short, and so I'm gonna go grab some cherry tomatoes and to put in there just to kind of get that up to the right level. Then we're gonna wipe our rims, put our lids on, and then put them in the canner. So on a day like today, I only ended up with 5 jars of diced tomatoes, and that's okay. There's some days that I do big canning projects, and there's other days that I'm doing, you know, what I have right here in the moment, which is why I'm using my Presto digital canner. It just makes it easy for me since it's only a small amount, and I know that that can fit. But if I'm doing a big canning project and I'm canning like, you know, 15 or 20 jars of something, then I always just use the stove because it's a lot easier and I can fit more in my big canner. So I put them in this digital canner, and like I said, I think it can hold 8 pints. I'm pouring water on the top because, again, with a water bath canning, the water has to be at least an inch above the lids. So you have to kind of create that same effect by putting extra water on it before you put the lid on. On the opposite end, when you're pressure canning, you only have like 3 inches of water in the bottom of the pot, which is why for pressure canning, you can actually do quart-sized jars because you don't have that water going up an inch above the jar. So this is just a great, easy way to do canning. I love, love, love doing this, you know, on a day when I have like maybe just an hour and I can knock out a preserving project real quick. Okay, so we have our jars in the canner, and this is what I love about it. It's hands off. So once you saw me put it in there, I don't have to do anything else until it beeps at me and tell me that it's done. That is it. That's what I love about it. I didn't have to wait to see about it going to boil. It heated up on its own. It took probably about 20 minutes or so. So again, when you're canning, you want to make sure that everything is the consistent temperature. Cold food, cold water, cold jars, right? And so for me, remember, I didn't heat up the tomatoes, and so it does the job of heating up and making sure that everything is the proper temperature. If I was doing this on my stove, then I would have started with cool water and let the water and the tomatoes heat up together, because the tomatoes are what we call a cold or a raw pack, meaning I put them in there raw. They were not heated up at all. So you don't want to put it into boiling water because otherwise you're going to have breakage. So we have that percolating. Now I'm going to go on to the other side of the kitchen, and I'm going to show you a different way to preserve corn than I showed you in last week's video. So in last week's video, I showed you the corn and how we preserved it. So basically, I flash froze it and we put it into the stasher resealable bags. That is a great way to do it. But now I have more corn from my second harvest, and I have about, I think, 10 cups here. And so for this, I'm going to vacuum seal it. So 2 different ways that you can do it. Now, the reason why I'm going to vacuum seal this is because, remember, if you watched last week's video, if not, I'll pop it up here. I talked about the corn is going to go fast, right? I'm going to eat it probably very, very soon. But because now I have more corn than what I had before, then I'm going to vacuum seal this. So I will eat the stuff that's in those stasher resealable bags first, and then I'll move to this, because this is going to keep a lot longer because it's vacuum sealed. And so that way, that'll also let me know which was harvested first, which was harvested second. I'm also doing another round of corn, which will be my second succession of corn. And then when that comes in, I'm going to do some like on the cob, and then I'll do the rest probably vacuum sealed if all goes well. So I have my vacuum sealer. I very rarely use my vacuum sealer just because I have so many other methods, but I do have a vacuum sealer and I do like it. And so I have these bags that are already sealed at the bottom. And so I just put that I'm going to do 2 cups in each bag, and I put the date, and these bags may be a little bit too big, but that's okay. I didn't want to make bags. These were already made and the box was already open. So that's why I'm doing it that way. So yeah, this is probably too much bag, but that's okay. Well, you know what? Maybe I'll do 4 cups. Do I want to do 4 cups? Yeah, we'll do 4 cups because the other bags I did are 2-cup bags. So we'll do 4 cups. We'll have 2 4-cup bags. And so I am going to put this in here. Y'all, it's been a while. I haven't used it since last year because I very rarely do it. So I think we just put it in here. Okay, so we have our corn. Like I said, this bag is probably too big, but this is what I have already open and I don't feel like making bags, so that's what I'm gonna do. Now I can barely, yeah, okay, I can still see the 4 cups. So we got 4 cups of corn right here, and we have the first one good to go. I think what I'm gonna do is, let's see if we can cut the bags. That's a smart idea. Let me find some scissors for real now. And then we'll probably just do the 2 cups in here, and then I'll put a label on it. So that's 2 cups. Now is this bag, nope, that's perfect. Not too small. Okay, so now let's seal that. So I like the fact that I did it in various sizes, 2 cups and 4 cups. So the 2 cups is be great when we're using it for like burrito bowls, because you don't put a ton of it on the burrito bowls, just to kind of give it some flavor. But then the 4 cups is when we want to have it like as a side dish. So you see I got several of these done, and so that's a great way for it to go in the freezer. So we have some that are vacuum sealed and some that are not vacuum sealed. We'll eat the ones that's not vacuum sealed first, and then we'll move to these right here. So back to the tomatoes. This is before I filled the jars, but I put the tomatoes in the jar, put it back in the canner. After it said insert jars, it heated up, and then it ran and processed for 45 minutes. And I had 5 jars ready to go once the canner was done. So here are the finished products of the tomatoes. I checked all the lids and the seals, everything's sealed. And so now they can be put on the pantry shelf. I'm so glad I tried this. Okay guys, so it's another day, but I want to show you another way to do corn. My family came in while I was recording, and y'all know how it is when your family come in. They loud. So I had to just pivot and just say, we're not going to record in the kitchen anymore today. So we're back. It's another day. It's actually the next day. And I want to show you, I decided to go ahead and do more corn a different way, and I want to show you that. So I'm going to actually freeze some on the cob, but when you're freezing corn on the cob, it's really important that you blanch. Now, in my previous video last week, I talked about blanching green beans, and it's the same process, but every vegetable is a different amount of time. So you want to make sure that you don't have a blanket way of how you blanch and just blanch everything for 3 minutes like we did the green beans. So with the green beans, we blanched, and blanching is just putting it in hot boiling water for a specified amount of time and then putting it in an ice water bath. So for the green beans, we did 3 minutes boiling and then 1 minute in a water bath. But for the corn, you want to do it the exact amount of time that you do the hot and the cold. And so for the corn, I put it in hot boiling water for about 8 minutes, and then I put it in an ice cold bath for 8 minutes. And so depending on the size of your corn, it would be, you would blanch anywhere from, I would say 8 to 10 minutes, depending on the size of your corn. And so you can just Google it, you know, if you have a medium ear versus a large ear, things like that. Now, I don't blanch all of my vegetables, but there are certain ones that I do blanch, like green beans, I blanch corn on the cob I blanch, because corn on the cob can tend to get either freezer burn, the texture can change really, really easily. And so when you blanch your corn on the cob, it's gonna help maintain the integrity of the corn in terms of the taste and the texture and the color. So we've already done that. And so I'm gonna actually vacuum seal this as an extra protection, just because it's very likely I will not get through all of the corn on the cob in the next, I would say, 2 to 3 months. It will probably be in my freezer, hopefully 6 to 8 months, maybe even up to a year, because we have, I think, 26 ears of corn, because that's going to go a lot slower than just me shucking the corn and getting 2 cups of corn to put in a burrito bowl. Like if I have 5 of those bags, then those bags are going to get gone really quickly, versus corn on the cob, you eat a couple of cobs maybe at the most at dinner, or you have one for dinner and then one for lunch. So it's going to go a lot slower, but I'm glad to be able to have some of that in my freezer. Now I'm going to gravitate, I already know, more towards the corn that is shucked off the cob than I am the corn on the cob, but I think it's good to have as a quick side for dinner. Yeah, it'll be a quick side to dinner. So let me show you how we're going to vacuum seal the corn. My kitchen is a mess because I've been in here working. So for this, these gallon size bags work perfectly. So I'm just gonna put the corn in here this way. And I've already done one bag because I wanted to test it out to see how I like it, and I like it. You can see this is the finished product right there. And so in that bag, I put 6, and that was perfect. So I'm gonna do 6 in this bag, and then I'll do some with 4 in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I wanna lay them flat, like in a single thing. So let's take this over to the vacuum sealer. I didn't tell you the variety. This is peaches and cream. Now, one of the things that was really important is that after I did the ice bath, it came out of the ice bath, you saw I had it on that towel. I'm drying it completely. You want to make sure all the moisture is gone, but to be on the safe side, I have my food vacuum sealer. I have it on moist, so it can get any remaining moisture out of it. And there you have it. So I'm gonna get the rest of this done, and we'll have corn ready for the freezer. Okay guys, we got it all done. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 packs of corn ready for the freezer. Love it, love it, love it. So if you have corn, whether you buy from a local farmer, your farmer's market, or if you grow it in your garden, this is a way to do it if you want corn on the cob in your freezer versus having it shucked and into kernels. So that is a great way to do it. Now we'll move on to the next thing that we're going to preserve. Okay guys, it is another day in the kitchen, and we're doing some more preserving today. I'm having to do it in batches because I don't have a whole day to preserve all the things at one time, which likely that is your story too. And so one of the things that I think about when it's time to preserve or bring in stuff even into the house is I think about the crops that can stay a little bit longer on the vine without any issues. Like for example, jalapeno peppers, they don't rot on the vine. They can, if they're ready today, they will still be ready 4 days from now. If nothing else, they'll just get bigger, but they're not gonna rot. My jalapenos never have disease. They never have bug damage. And so if I am pressed for time and I'm having to harvest in a limited amount of time, then I'm gonna get the stuff that I know is not gonna survive on the vine, like a tomato. Okra is gonna get too big and things like that. Now, once I bring it to my house, I apply that same logic. What can stay on my counter a couple of days versus it needs to be processed right away? So for me, when I'm bringing in green beans, I'm processing those right away. I'm bringing in corn, I'm processing that right away, because the flavor is going to deteriorate if you let the corn sit on your counter for 4 or 5 days. And green beans, they kind of go limp. And so I'm getting that stuff done. Tomatoes, they're usually on my counter for, I would say, 5 to 7 days, because they're ripening and or time for me to get to it. And they're pretty good within that sweet spot. And so I'm thinking about all those things when it's time to preserve and when I have pockets of time. And so I would encourage you to do the same. Don't feel like I have to have a whole entire day to preserve if that's not your life story. Do what you can with the time that you have. So today I have a couple of hours, and we're gonna see what we can get done in a couple of hours. The goal is to get some tomatoes done, cucumbers, and basil. Those are the 3 things that I'm hoping that we can get done today. So the first thing we're gonna do is do our tomatoes. And so I have a whole basket, dripping, of cherry tomatoes that we're going to put in the oven to roast. So I have a whole colander full of cherry tomatoes. Now, I did not mean to grow this many cherry tomatoes, but that's what happened. I'm going to do a better job next time. I don't have as many as last year, but I still have more than what I wanted. The cherry tomatoes, I really just prefer to eat fresh, just because they're so small and it's hard to do anything with. I shouldn't say hard to do anything with them. I would prefer not to have them like in spaghetti sauce and things like that. Have I done it in spaghetti sauce? I absolutely have. So I have a baking sheet here that I'm using some good quality olive oil, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually roast these tomatoes. So all I'm gonna do is like take off the stems, and I'm just gonna put them in here whole. I don't even think I'm gonna slice them. No, I don't think so. And we're going to make some roasted tomato soup that's going to be for the freezer. I did this for the last 2 years. I did it the first year and I only made like a couple. It was so good. Last year I made, I think, 4. That wasn't enough. It was so good. I've already used my last one, and so I want to make some more, and I'm getting it in the freezer early. Some of these are bigger than others. This is a combination of large red cherry tomatoes, Sakura, and then also Sun Gold. So it'll have, and then also some grape sweet tomatoes, which is a new variety for me this year. Normally I would sometimes slice them, but when they're small, and because I'm gonna use them in this way, they're gonna be all blended up. It's not gonna really matter. Now, do you have to do it this way? Can you just go ahead and blend this right up? You can, but to me, I prefer the extra step because the flavor is phenomenal. So even when I do my salsa, I roast my tomatoes first, and the flavor is out of this world. It just makes such a big difference in terms of the flavor. So for my tomato soup, I roast as well. This is also good. I have a recipe that I may try later where you can just kind of roast the tomatoes and then preserve them in olive oil. So the olive oil is actually the preservative. So you would roast this up with like garlic and onion. And then once it's roasted, you would put it in a jar and then cover the whole jar with a good quality olive oil and then let that sit in your refrigerator. It's going to solidify because of the refrigerator, and then you want to take it out maybe 15 or 20 minutes before you want to use it, and it'll turn back into like a liquid, and that's good on top of pasta and things like that. I did that a couple of years ago, and that was good. So I didn't do it last year, so maybe I'll do it this year. We'll see. I'm trying to do some different things with the tomatoes, but also do the things that I know that we like and love. So salsa is always a big hit. And so I have a recipe and a video on roasted tomato salsa if you're interested in that. I'm sure I'll make it at some point this summer on the video, but I'm thinking about actually canning some of it this time. I still want to have some in the freezer because I think in my mind, freezer would taste better than canned salsa because of course the salsa gets cooked in the canning process. But I like the convenience, the idea of the convenience of having some salsa on the shelf. So in the freezer, you have to remember that you need it the next day and take it out. And sometimes I don't want to have to remember. I want to just be able to open salsa when I want it. So I think I'm going to try canning a few jars and see if the flavor still comes through really good. And then if it does, then we'll can more. But I'm just taking all these stems off. This is going to be, in my opinion, the longest And the hardest part, we're just gonna fill up this tray with tomatoes. So I am going to fill up the tray with tomatoes. I am going to put it in the oven on 400 for about 40 to 45 minutes until the skin starts to char. And so I'll bring you back once we get them in the oven, because while that's in the oven, we'll move on to our next preservation project. So I'll bring you back when it's time to do the next preservation project. And then of course you'll see these when they come out. Okay, so next we're gonna preserve some basil, and we're going to make a basil finishing salt. Now, a lot of people, when you grow basil, it grows pretty prolific. It loves the heat. And the more you prune it or cut it or harvest it, the more it keeps coming back, especially if you cut it right above a leaf node. It will grow out bushy instead of tall and lanky. And so I always have an overabundance of basil and always trying to find ways to do something with. Of course, the traditional way is with pesto. Last year I made basil tea. I wasn't a fan of the basil tea, so we're not gonna make that again. But today we're gonna make some basil finishing salt. Now I have done some herb infused salt. I've done rosemary infused salt, but I've never done basil. And it's all the rage. I've seen it all over the internet, so I decided we will try it. And it couldn't be, making infused salts are so easy. And so I grabbed some basil today, fresh from the garden. I'm packing this in. This is about, let's see, about 3 cups of packed basil. So what I did was I took the stems off, and then I rinsed it or washed it in cool water, and then we're gonna put it in our food processor and add in some salt. That is basically it. So I have my food processor here, and so for the 3 cups of basil, I'm gonna put that in there, and then we're gonna add in about 2 cups of salt. Now you can use whatever ratio you want, but most recipes are saying, you know, if you have 1.5 cups of basil to 1 cup of salt. So I have 3 cups, so we'll do 2 cups, and I may even do like 1 3/4. For me, I don't want it to be like replace salt. I want it to have more of a basil than salt. So you can play around with whatever ratios you want, like I'm gonna do, and we'll see how it turns out. But this will be a great addition to use on pretty much anything. You could put it on pasta, obviously. Here's my thing. You could put it on pasta. You could put it on any type of meat that you want to use, that you want to have like a basil. I would think eggs. I would think French fries. I would think potatoes, spaghetti sauce, lasagna. I mean, any type of thing where you would put basil, it would go. So we got 1 cup there. And then let's do 1 other cup. So I'm using a kosher coarse salt. You can also use like a Maldon salt. I didn't have 2 cups of that, so that's why I'm using that. And we're just gonna put this in the food processor. And then we're just gonna be like real fine, almost looking like beach sand is what you want. Oh, it smells so good. So very good. Now, you know what? I'm gonna put some I got a little bit of this roasted garlic left. Let's put some of that in there. Now, you don't have to do that. You can just make basil salt. But why not? Why not? It's gonna be good. How can it not be good? It's basil and garlic, right? And I would put garlic on any pasta dish I have anyway. So now we're gonna have some basil roasted garlic finishing salt. How about that? I think that is going to be so good. So this is kind of the consistency of it. Let me taste it. Now it's going to be moist and wet, so we're gonna actually have to dry this out, but let me just taste a little bit of it. That's good, but for me, it almost feels like it's too salty. I don't want it that salty. So, I don't have any more basil to add, but it may be that way because it's not dry. Okay, so what I did was I just went outside my back door and grabbed me some more basil because I have basil growing in my backyard too. So that is the benefit of gardening in multiple spaces and having you what they call like a kitchen garden close to your house. All the things that you would use in your kitchen. That's what a kitchen garden is versus like a full garden. You would have just the things that you normally would use. So let me dry this real good. Again, I just took off the leaves. I think this is probably, if I had to guess, maybe a cup full. And then we're gonna add that into it. Now, it could just taste salty because it's wet and once it dries out, but I don't wanna take any chances. Now, again, you use whatever ratio you want because if you wanna use it in place of a salt. But for me, I know that I use salt in some dishes and I would probably do that as a default and then remember like, oh, let me put some basil salt in here. And so I wouldn't want it to be like overpowering. I want more of the basil flavor than the salt. But the salt also acts as a preservative as well. And this will last like 6 to 12 months. So let's see how much this is. And also sometimes that kosher salt to me is a little bit more salty. Okay, so that's almost 2 cups. So we're gonna add that in. And we definitely should have less of a salty flavor. So I would encourage you as you're doing it to just do it according to what you want. Y'all, those tomatoes are smelling so good. Okay, so back to the basil salt. So basically what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put this on a parchment lined baking sheet. And once the oven is free, we are gonna actually bake this in the oven on 220 for like 30 minutes until it's completely dry. It's gonna be moist, all the things, but I'm just gonna smooth this out into like as thin of a layer as I can. And once the oven is ready, then we'll pop this in the oven. We'll let the oven cool down to 225 degrees for about 30 minutes. And then that's done. So this is relatively easy. You can just do this. I mean, you can bring in a handful of basil, pop it in your food processor with some salt and put it in your oven. Or if you have a dehydrator, you can use a dehydrator. Obviously I can use my freeze dryer, but that would take much longer than us putting it in the oven. So we're just gonna try the oven method and see if that works. But normally I've done my salts in the freeze dryer. This also would make a great gift at Christmas time. You can put it in a cute little jar and put a ribbon around it and give it to teachers. You can give it to people in your family. You can give it to people in your church, your sorority. And so people love homemade gifts, and you can say that it's basil from your garden. So this is all ready to go when the oven is ready. So I'm gonna wash my hands, clean up the food processor, and we're gonna come back for our next preserving recipe. Okay guys, so next we're gonna do something with cucumbers. And so I have 4 cucumbers here, 2 that are rather large and 2 that are just a regular size. So I grew the sashimi, which is like a Japanese cucumber. And then I grew some that are more like just traditional size cucumbers. So we are going to get this chopped up, and what we're gonna make, I'm really excited about. We are going to make a tzatziki starter, like a dry tzatziki starter. So that way, when you wanna make tzatziki sauce, you already have the ingredients dried, and all you have to do is add in some yogurt. So I'm really excited about that because I love tzatziki sauce. My husband doesn't love it, so I've never really made tzatziki sauce, but I definitely get it when I'm out and eating Greek food. And so I thought this would be a great way to use up some cucumbers. So we're gonna start the process today because we have to get the cucumbers chopped, and then I'm gonna actually put them in my freeze dryer so that they can be dry and shelf stable. And then I'll bring you back and let you know what we're gonna add to the mix. And so this is a great way, like I said, a great way to use cucumbers. Let me throw this in here. I'm not even peeling them at all, because I don't know that I would do that if I was making it traditionally. So let's get these going. And I don't think it matters the shape. Now, in a perfect world, I thought about shredding it. I could do that, and maybe I will do the next one shredded so I can see the difference. But at the end of the day, this is going to get blended up into a powder. So in terms of the size, chunks, shreds, slices of how I freeze dried, it really doesn't matter because it's going to be blended up. Now, the only thing I can think about, if I wanted to have like maybe some bigger chunks in the tzatziki, then I could do it that way. But the way I see it is really just going to provide the flavor. So let me get my freeze dry trays. Let me lay this one out, and then we'll do it a couple of different ways, and we'll see which way that we like. Yeah, this is going to be more of a, yeah, I don't think I like this way. Just because it's a little bit more messy. And it creates water because we're doing it so fine. But I'm not gonna let it go to waste. We're just gonna keep it as is. You live and you learn. So I'm gonna wash this out, and then I'm gonna change the attachment to the shredder attachment, and we're gonna try it that way. And I think I like that better. So I'm getting the remaining of these cucumbers diced up. I think this will also be a good way if you have some cucumbers that maybe are a little bit too big and you want to try that. You could scoop the seeds out and all of that. I'm not gonna go through the trouble of doing all that because we're just experimenting. And so I'd rather do it this way and find out, hey, I don't like it, and then do it a different way the next time. So I have the shredder attachment in here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I like this way much better just because it's not gonna be as messy. You kind of have half moon slices, which I think is going to be much better. This will probably fill up 3 freeze dry trays. So freeze dryer obviously is one of the ways that I preserve because I have a freeze dryer. But I'm trying to show you different methods depending on what you have. And a lot of the methods I've shown have just been freezing. It's gonna be storage, some light canning and things like that. So it should appeal to whatever you have. I don't want you to think because you don't have a freeze dryer or dehydrator that you can't preserve your food. You can, you just have limited options. So these cucumbers are going to go in the freeze dryer. That will take probably a good 12 to 15 hours. And so we'll have to finish this part tomorrow. But we got the main part done, and we have 3 containers of the cucumbers. Now this is what the other one looked like. The first one that I did, I don't like that one, but we'll use it and we'll see what happens. Yeah, I don't like that at all. I think what I want to do is cut up some more cucumbers, and let's try to, because I'm trying to think how much powder I think this will make, because in the recipe for each batch, you're going to use like 1/4 of a cup of cucumber powder. So obviously this is going to dry up and then it's going to be crushed. So I think what I'm going to do is use more cucumbers. That's what I'm going to do, and just do the whole freeze dry tray full of cucumbers. I think that's what I'm going to do. So let me go get some more cucumbers, get them washed up, and put them on the freeze dry tray. So this is an absolute great way to use up a lot of cucumbers. So my cucumber story is kind of like my cherry tomato story. I call myself growing less cucumbers, and I am growing less, but I still have an overabundance of cucumbers, more than what I would like, more than what I can use. And cucumbers are tricky in that it's hard to preserve them. And so I was happy to try this way as a way to use up the cucumbers in a way that you can preserve them, because you can't really freeze cucumbers. There's not much you can do with cucumbers besides eat them fresh. And so here's another way to try, but I'm excited to try because I love tzatziki sauce. Now, if you like tzatziki sauce, let me know down in the comments and tell me that you like tzatziki sauce. If you're like, I don't even know what that is, you can tell me that too if you want to. But I'm excited about how this is going to turn out. And spoiler alert, it turns out really, really good. I got 5 trays of cucumbers. This is what they look like. They're going to go in the freeze dryer. And then tomorrow when they're ready, we'll actually make the tzatziki dry starter mix. In the meantime, while I was doing this, the tomatoes are ready. They're right there. We got 2 pans, and I've turned the temperature down in the oven and put our basil finishing salt in there. So we are going to come back to the tomatoes after I put these in the freeze dryer. Okay guys, we're back, and now we're back to the tomatoes to make our tomato soup. This is gonna come together really, really easy. So we've already roasted the tomatoes. Let me show you what they look like. They look so good. I forgot to salt them, but that's okay. We're gonna add salt when we add anything, but usually I put salt on them, but look at that. Okay guys, so I got my mess cleaned up. So we're about to pull this together really, really quickly. So all we're gonna do is pretty much dump and blend. I'm gonna use my food processor. You could also use a Vitamix. And so the first thing we're gonna do is actually get the tomatoes in the food processor. And because this have juice, let me grab one thing. Let me go ahead and dump my garlic in here. I have some garlic that I roasted as well. It's gonna be easier to try to do it this way. Roasted tomatoes just by itself, like on top of some pasta and some olive oil, is like so good. We'll do 1 tray at a time. Perfect. And then I also roasted some onions. We'll throw one of those in there, or half. We'll save the other half for that pan. And then we're gonna add in some salt. There is a recipe, but I'm just going by what I think. And then garlic powder on top of the garlic we already put in there, because you can't have too much garlic. You just can't have too much. What else does it say add? Basil, tomato paste, and some sugar. Okay, we're just gonna add in a little bit of sugar, probably 1/4 of a teaspoon, just to get started. That's to cut down some of the acidity. I have some fresh homegrown basil that's dried. I'm gonna add a little bit of that, and I can add more when I'm gonna eat it. Now, let me tell you a couple of things for this. For me, I'm primarily freezing this. So because I'm freezing it, some of the ingredients I'm not gonna put in there, like the dairy. So it calls for heavy cream and Parmesan cheese. I will add that stuff after I freeze it. I take it out and get ready to eat it, because if you freeze soups a lot with dairy, sometimes it can change the texture and make it grainy. Now, if you were gonna eat this right now, then you would add in all the stuff if you want it. You don't have to add in heavy cream. You could add in evaporated milk or whatever you prefer, whatever you choose. And then Parmesan cheese on top, as well as some basil on top. But all of that is optional. It's depending on what type of flavor you want. But I'm not adding that stuff in now because I am gonna freeze this, okay? So let's just... Y'all, this stuff is so good. So simple, so easy. I'm just gonna pour it, oh, I made a mess. Pour it in these containers to freeze. I think before I did it in pints, I'm gonna do 2 quarts for when I wanna have it for like maybe 2 lunches, 2 days in a row. And then I'll also do some in pints as well. Y'all, it tastes so good. And when you add in the fresh basil, Parmesan cheese, and or cream or whatever you want when it's time to serve it, and put you some croutons on top. You can even make you some sourdough croutons from some leftover sourdough bread. So good. So we have some roasted tomato soup. So we have 2 quarts. We still have another tray. So I'm gonna make up this tray the same way that I did this one. I'm gonna do a little bit less garlic because that's very garlicky or whatever. So I don't know if someone else would want it that garlicky. It's okay by me, but let's go ahead and get this in here with the onion. And I remember now what I did. I put all of that garlic that was supposed to be split between 2 batches, and I put it all in that first batch. That's why it was so garlicky. Plus I added the garlic powder. So for this, we'll just have to add some garlic powder, and that'll be it. Okay, we're back. So we're gonna add in some salt, some garlic powder, some basil, and all the rest of the ingredients we'll add in when we make it. Okay guys, so I made the second batch, and then I had a thought. I took it from my food processor and put it in my Vitamix blender because it was smooth but not completely smooth, and I wanted to try getting it more smooth, like silky smooth, and I actually like this texture better. Now, the last time that I made it, I did it in the food processor, and I ate it. It was good. I didn't complain. But this, I like better because it's completely smooth and no bits. What I was tasting was my garlic cloves that were roasted like the little bits, which I don't mind, but I think the smoother consistency is a little bit better. So I'm gonna do it that way. And I got enough for 2 pints. This little bit, I'm just gonna go ahead and eat that. Let's put some tops on these. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna empty those other containers that I made and put them in the Vitamix so that they're all smooth. So when you're making it, if you wanted to have a smooth texture, go ahead and use your blender or a Vitamix versus doing it in your food processor. So we got those two. And you can even tell the color is a little bit darker when it's not as blended up. So I'm gonna transfer these to my Vitamix, make them smooth, and then we'll repackage them. Okay guys, so we have 2 quarts and 2 pints. So if you wanted pints, it would end up being 6 pints from those 2 pans of tomatoes. And so that used up a whole basket of cherry tomatoes. For the tzatziki starter, we used about 12 tomatoes for those 5 trays, freeze-dry trays. So we'll see how much that actually makes. But for the tomato soup, I at least have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 portions, and we're just getting started. We'll have plenty more tomatoes, so if we want extra, we can certainly do extra. But this will come in handy, as it always does in the wintertime. When you need a quick lunch, you can grab it, or if you know you want it the next day. But it defrosts pretty quickly, but it's a great thing to have. And then I'll have this in case we want to use it for dinner, and then throw a sandwich with it or something like that. Quick and easy, already done. And it will taste like summer in December. So definitely, if you like tomato soup, that's how easy it is to make it. Now, when you see tomato soup recipes, traditionally it's going to tell you to use Roma tomatoes, which is a paste tomato, which is going to have less juice, less seeds, and all that. But I just use what I have. I've always just used what I had. I don't think I've ever made the tomato soup with just Roma tomatoes at all. Maybe when I get a whole bunch of Romas, I will. But this consistency is still very thick. It's still very good. You can see the consistency here. Let me show you, because I'm about to eat this right here. The consistency is pretty thick. Y'all, this is so good. It is unreal. If you want cream, you can add cream, but it tastes good just like it is. This is unreal. Okay, y'all, my kitchen is a disaster. I'm gonna let these completely cool before I label them and put them in the freezer. Now, another option is you can also make this and freeze this in freezer bags and lay them flat, like make sure the soup is like laid flat, and then freeze them flat. That way you can save on space. So that's also a way to do it. I just like these deli containers better than doing it in a freezer bag. It's just easier for me, especially when it thaws out. I don't feel like the bag is all limp, it's gonna break and all that kind of stuff. But that definitely is an option if you so desire. So our basil salt just came out of the oven. We gotta let it completely cool before we can do anything with it. It said to make sure it's completely dry, but I can't tell if it's dry or not because it's so thick. I don't think it's dry. Yeah, I'm gonna put it back in here because it doesn't look dry to me. Like I feel like it should be. And it could, I mean, I tried to do it as thin as possible, but maybe because, I don't know, we had some moisture in here. Like this part right here looks dry, but then the rest of it doesn't. I think I'm gonna give it a few more minutes. It doesn't feel as dry to me as it should. So that's why I like to freeze dry, because I know for sure that it is. But I'm gonna stick this back in the oven for, let's say, let's go 15 minutes. That's on 225. I'm gonna get my kitchen cleaned up. I'm gonna eat my soup and then we'll see if it's ready. Okay guys, it is the next day. And so I wanna bring you back and we're gonna do the basil salt and finish it up together. Now I will tell you, this took much longer than 30 minutes. And so I would say use your best judgment and you will be able to tell when it's dry. Like when you saw it before, it was dark green, but as it continued to dry in the oven, it got like a light green color. Now I think mine was not spread out as thin as it needed to be. It was a little thick in places, so it took a lot longer than the 30 minutes. But we eventually got it dry. I just put it in this bag here. This is what it looks like. I'm gonna be using my Vitamix, and this is actually the dry container. I'm sure you can use the regular Vitamix, but a lot of times when you're doing something dry or using like grains and nuts, it's easier to just use this. And since we have it, we'll use it. It smells good. Let's just go ahead and put in, it's hard as a rock, so it's definitely dry. Let's go ahead and just do one and see what it's like. Okay, I see it's gonna make much more than I anticipated because I got this little thing right here thinking that's all I was gonna have, but we got this left over. Y'all, it smells so good. Let's taste it. That's good. That's really good. I think it could have even used more basil, but that tastes really good. That's gonna be a great seasoning. Okay, so let's do the rest. And let's see how much we have. We'll probably get a bigger jar. Okay guys, here is the final product. I had to switch jars because I had more than I anticipated. So this is almost like a pint-sized jar. This is like this is a pint-sized jar. It's just a different lip. But it smells good. It looks good. I'm so glad. And we use about 3 to 4 cups of basil. So that's a great way to use up your basil. This will probably last a while just because I have other seasonings. And I can anticipate using this on many, many things. So I'm excited to have it. And like I said, this will be a great gift to give to someone over the holidays. Homemade basil infused or finishing salt from your garden. Now for me, I added in a little bit of garlic, roasted garlic, just because I wanted to and I like it, and I think it gave it a great flavor. But you can just make yours just basil and salt and keep it very, very simple. So I hope that you'll try it. If you have tried it before, let me know, and let me know in the comments what you put it on. So y'all, now we're down to our final thing, which is completing our dry tzatziki starter recipe. And so the cucumbers are done in the freeze dryer. I'm about to go get them and I'm gonna bring you back and we're gonna make and pull this starter together for the tzatziki sauce, and then let me go get the other ingredients. I'm really excited about this one. Okay guys, our cucumbers are ready. They look and smell just like cucumbers. I guess if you could eat these as cucumber chips. I don't know that I would want to do that, but I was also wondering, I wonder if I could save some of these as is and put them in my water in the wintertime and they would give me cucumber flavor. I have cucumber in my water in the summertime. I love that. But let's go ahead with the recipe. So we got to make cucumber powder. So I'm going to use my Vitamix, my regular Vitamix here. The other one I rinsed out, but it needs to be completely dry, and I don't feel like I can get it completely dry. Okay, guys, we got the cucumbers blended up. I had to switch Vitamix because I was so concerned about the first Vitamix that I used, cup or holder, that it was going to be too wet because I had just washed it and I couldn't get it dry enough. And I grabbed the other one, not even thinking to look in it because I had used it this morning. We use, and as you can see, I have 3 different containers. I have the traditional one, and then the stainless steel one, and then we have the dry one. We use our Vitamix every single day, but I used this one because it was dry. Let's see how much powder we have. So this is 2 trays of cucumbers. I had to throw the first. Okay, so this is probably like a cup. Let me transfer it to this right here. So we know how much to do for in terms of our measurements. So this is right at 3/4 of a cup. Okay, so we're gonna put that in our bowl. This is what it looks like. So the recipe that I'm using calls for 1/4 of a cup. So we have 3 times that amount. That's okay, we'll rock with it. So I just need to triple the amount of all the other ingredients. So it asks for some dill. And so this is fresh dill that we freeze dried from our garden earlier this year. I don't know if I ground this up or not. I didn't, so we need a tablespoon. So we'll need 3 tablespoons of dill, and I'm just going to eyeball. Smells so good, so good. Freeze-dried herbs are the absolute best. Now, you may not have a freeze dryer. If you have some dried dill, or you can just get you some from the store, that's completely fine. But if you are even remotely thinking about a freeze dryer, let me push you over the edge and tell you to go and get one. Because, especially if you're going to use it. If you're going to use it, I use mine all the time. I've had mine now, I think this is my 3rd year. And they do have a layaway plan that I tell everybody about all the time. That's how I got mine. So you can put, I think it's $250 down, and you can pay as much as you want whenever you want, and you can take however long. There's not like a monthly minimum payment. They're not going to call and harass you about a payment. You can pay once every 3 months, once every 2 months, once every 6 months. You can pay $50, you can pay $500, you can pay whatever you want. That's how I got my freeze dryer. Okay, we got all of our dill in there. That looks good already. And then it says garlic powder, and it calls for 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. So remember, we're tripling this because we have triple the amount of cucumber powder. So that would be 4.5 teaspoons, which is 1.5 tablespoons if I did my math right. But, you know, we ain't gonna care too much because it's garlic, okay? So we're gonna put that in there. And then it calls for 2 teaspoons of onion powder, which will be 6 teaspoons, which is the equivalent of 2 tablespoons. 3 teaspoons equals a tablespoon. So we put that in there. Boom. Okay, and y'all, that's pretty much it. So the other thing that the recipe calls for is lemon powder. I don't have lemon powder, but it said you can add lemon juice when it's time to make it fresh. So pretty much this is, oh, I forgot one thing, salt. I got excited. So salt, it says a teaspoon of salt. So for us, we're gonna do a tablespoon of salt, because that would be the equivalent of 3 teaspoons. I'm gonna do a little bit less than that because I can always add more salt. And then it asks for some black pepper. I don't know, they don't sound like they taste right in some tzatziki sauce. I ain't never seen black pepper in tzatziki sauce. Anyway, we can always add it at the end. Now, one thing it did mention is a tablespoon of dried spearmint, and it said that's the secret ingredient. Now, I have spearmint from my garden that I grew that's freeze dried, but something about that, I don't know. What y'all think? We can always add it when we make it fresh. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna leave this as is. So basically we have the cucumber powder, we have onion powder, garlic powder, and we have fresh dill. So when we get ready to make this, we would add in a Greek yogurt or a yogurt substitute, and we would add in lemon juice. And so the recipe says you would add in 2.5 cups of yogurt, and you would take a half a cup of this mixture. So a half a cup of the mixture, once it's all mixed up, into 2.5 cups of yogurt and mix it thoroughly. And then you want to let it sit in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours, but it's better overnight so the flavors can blend. And then you can add the lemon juice because I don't have lemon powder. Okay, so let's just mix all of this up. Okay, y'all, we have it all mixed up. Now let me pour it into my jar. Y'all, it smells amazing. It smells just like tzatziki sauce. Smells just like it. Can you see that? Y'all, when I tell you, like, if this works, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. It is a game. Can you imagine having this on your shelf and come this December when you're having a holiday party and you want to do a charcuterie board and you want to have you some fresh veggies and have you some tzatziki sauce on the side, and you pull out your little starter mix, take you a half a cup and mix it into some yogurt and serve that. You're just gonna be like, girl, this tzatziki sauce is the bomb. You're like, yep, it's from my cucumbers I grew this summer. Yes, yes, and yes. Yes, and yes. Y'all, I'm so excited about this. Do you see that? If we had smell-o-vision, this smells just like tzatziki sauce. Now, my husband, he don't too much do Mediterranean food like me. I love it. So that's one of the places I always go, like when I'm out by myself, if I'm running errands, I'll pop into a kava, I'll pop into a tzatziki's, quick, fast, and in a hurry. And be eating me some tzatziki sauce with some cucumbers, hummus, pita bread, all the olives, all the things. Him, not so much. But you best believe, by the time I put this on some dishes, he gonna probably be eating it up. I'm thinking this will be good. One of the things I want to learn how to make, well, I've never made it, and I don't think it's difficult, but still learn how to make, are falafels. I did not know I liked falafels until like 6 months ago. I had them somewhere and I'm like, this is good. I didn't know that I like falafels. So I want to make my own falafels. So I'm thinking about doing like this Buddha bowl, or like a grain bowl with some falafels, some rice, cucumbers, some tzatziki. Yes, yes, and yes. And if you make your own yogurt, even better, even better. You probably, I wonder, could you use sour cream? You might be able to use, now I do make my own sour cream, which is the bomb. It's a vegan plant-based version, the bomb. If you want to see the sour cream, let me know. I have to make that for you one day. Back to what I was saying. So I was thinking like a Buddha or a grain bowl. Also, I have this recipe that we may do in the next video, using up some of our zucchini, making some zucchini fritters. And in that recipe, it mentioned as a recommendation having some tzatziki sauce on top of the zucchini fritter. So maybe we'll do that in our next preserving video. We'll make some zucchini fritters from the zucchini that we preserved, and then we can put some of this and make some tzatziki sauce. That might be a whole thing. What you think? It might be a whole thing. If you excited about the tzatziki sauce, am I the only one? Am I the only one? Put it down below. Put it down below. Y'all, we have had a time in the kitchen these past 2 days. We have done diced tomatoes in Camden. We have done frozen corn on the cob. I showed you how to do that. We have done tomato soup. We have done basil salt. And now we have a dry tzatziki starter mix. Y'all, I just gave you the keys to the kingdom on basil, cucumbers, tomatoes, and corn. Let me know which one is your favorite that you're going to try this from your summer garden. Let me know in the comments. I cannot wait to see which one is your favorite recipe. Y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with me in the past 2 days in my kitchen, showing you what I do with all the food that I grow. These are just some of the things that I use and that I do with the food I grow. Some of the stuff I've done before, but like you saw today, some of it is brand new and I'm doing it with you. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this type of content and you like my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. I would love for you to be a part of this community. And remember, y'all, this is all part of the journey. Let's grow together. I'll see you next time, friend. Thanks so much for stopping by our channel. And if you would, take a moment and go to our website at livingfoodsfarm.com. You can see all of the latest YouTube videos in case you missed one. You can subscribe to the channel, sign up for our email list, as well as join our YouTube membership. Also, we have many items for sale under the shop tab. You can go to kitchen or to skin and body, depending on what you're looking for. We source many of the items right here from things that we grow on the farm, or we buy from an organic source. We also have digital resources as well that you can instantly download. We have everything from seed starting calculators, how to build healthy soil, as well as 2-hour classes, replays on sourdough, canning, and fall gardening, and how to start your garden for the very first time. So go take a look, see if there's anything that you would be interested in, and thank you so much again for stopping by our channel.